All right, get ready to dive deep today because we're talking about ditching that whole chase and becoming a magnet for the good stuff. You know, attracting what we want instead of stressing after it.
Oh, I like that.
We're taking a deep dive into this audiobook I found fascinating called Don't Chase, Attract What Belongs to You Will Simply Find You.
Interesting.
And it really flips the script on how we usually approach our goals. Like, usually it's all about go get them, make it happen.
Right, like hustle harder, push harder, practically wrestle those goals to the ground. Right?
Exactly. But this audiobook is like, hold on a second, what if there's a different way?
A little more, dare I say, magnetic way to bring our desires to life.
I love that. It's like working smarter, not harder, but for, well, everything we want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things this audiobook really dives into is this whole idea of do your best and detach.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit, because at first it sounds kind of contradictory, right? Like,
right.
You're telling me to do my best, but then also let go.
It's a bit like when you overthink a presentation. You end up stumbling over words that usually flow so easily. But when you trust in your preparation, trust in yourself, and just show up authentically, that's when you really shine. And this audiobook suggests we apply that same principle to our goals.
Oh, I like that. So it's like finding that sweet spot between effort and trust.
Yes.
We put in the work, but then we release the need to control the outcome.
Exactly. The audiobook actually uses a really great analogy of a child chasing a butterfly. The harder they chase, the further it flies away, right?
Okay.
Our desires can be kind of like that too.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when you're desperately searching for something, you lost that frantic energy. It's like it becomes even more elusive.
Yes.
But then the moment you kind of surrender to it, and you're like, okay, maybe I won't find it right away. Bam, there it is.
It's like we create resistance when we grip too tightly to a specific outcome. This audiobook reminds us that there's a bigger picture unfolding, and often we can't see the whole thing.
Right.
And that our job is to trust in that unfolding.
Trust in the process. There's a story that really illustrates this beautifully in the audiobook, and it's about Winnie, the artist.
Oh, yeah.
She was so fixated on getting her work into the specific gallery that it consumed her every thought.
And, you know, the more she chased that outcome, the more frustrated she became.
Mm-hmm.
Her work, which used to flow so effortlessly, started to feel forced, you know, uninspired.
Oh, absolutely. It's like when you try too hard to force something, it loses its magic.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until she stumbled upon this whole concept of detachment, this letting go of the need to control the outcome, that things really started to shift for her.
Yeah.
She went back to creating art just for the pure joy of it. And ironically, that's when she got the recognition she was after.
It's the paradox of detachment, isn't it?
Yeah.
By releasing that pressure, by trusting, it allows us to actually open ourselves up to receive.
It's like the more we chase, the more we push away, but the more we surrender to the journey, the more we attract what we truly desire. And this leads us to another juicy principle in this audiobook.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Feeling it into existence. This one really piqued my interest because it's all about tapping into the law of attraction, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. The audiobook encourages us to really embody the feeling of already having what we want, to align our energy with our desires.
So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, it's about really truly believing, like deep down, that what you want is already on its way.
Exactly. It's about shifting our internal landscape, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, to match that external reality we want to create.
It's like we become a magnet for our desires when we embody that energy of already having it.
Yes, and this audiobook actually uses a word that I found fascinating in this context. It talks about being delusional.
Delusional. Okay, we're gonna need to unpack that one because that seems like a pretty risky word to be throwing around, especially in the self-help world.
Right.
What do you mean delusional?
It's about reframing how we view that word. It's not about denying reality. It's about choosing to embody the feelings of our desired reality right here, right now. It's like we step onto a movie screen and we allow ourselves to feel what it would be like to live in that reality.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like if you want to attract abundance, for example, you start embodying that feeling of already being abundant, even if your bank account doesn't reflect that yet.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to get this whole delusional thing. But this is where I think a lot of people, myself included, might hit a bit of a roadblock. Because, you know, There's a fine line between positive expectation and just straight up denial.
Right.
So how do we feel it into existence without falling into the trap of ignoring reality? Especially if things in our lives aren't exactly peachy at the moment.
That is such an important question, and to be honest, one that I struggled with myself. This audiobook addresses that directly. It's not about burying our heads in the sand. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect when it's not. It's about choosing to focus on the desired outcome, even while acknowledging our current reality.
So it's like holding that vision of what we want to create, but also being present to the steps we need to take to get there.
Yes.
We're not just passively waiting for things to magically appear, but we're also not letting our current circumstances dictate how we feel about the future.
Exactly. And that's where the do your best part of the equation comes back in. We've aligned our energy, now we need to take inspired action.
It's like we become more tuned into opportunities because our energy is aligned with what we want to attract. We're not just chasing every shiny object.
Right.
We're moving with intention and with purpose.
And that leads us to another core message in this audiobook. Stop chasing, start attracting.
Ooh, I like that.
It's like the title of the book boiled down into a single powerful statement.
It's so true, though, because so much of our lives, we are in this constant state of chasing. We're chasing deadlines, promotions, relationships.
And often, that very act of chasing is fueled by a sense of lack.
Yes.
This belief that we don't already have what we need.
Yeah.
And that energy, as this audiobook beautifully points out, can actually repel the very things that we're trying to attract.
It's like when you desperately need a break.
Oh, yes.
And every little thing just seems to irritate you even more. But then you finally surrender to the chaos. You accept that, okay, things might be a little messy for a bit. And then suddenly, you find those pockets of peace. You find those pockets of joy.
That is a perfect example. It's about shifting from that mindset of I have to find it to a mindset of it's already mine. I just need to allow it to flow into my experience.
Okay, I am loving this conversation. Before we jump into the next section, which by the way is all about reframing challenges, and I think this is so important because that's a big one.
Yes.
How do we deal with the curveballs? I want to touch on one of the stories that the audiobook uses to illustrate this idea of stop chasing, start attracting.
You have to be talking about Anna's story. Her experience really resonated with me too.
Yes, Anna. Her journey to finding love. I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, especially with the whole world of online dating and feeling like you constantly need to be out there
Right.
in order to find a partner.
Anna's story is such a powerful example of how our energy can literally attract or repel what we desire, especially in the realm of love.
So tell us a bit about Anna and how she went from chasing love to attracting it.
Okay, so Anna was, by her own admission, a serial dater. She was constantly on dating apps, going out to meet new people, but nothing seemed to stick. She was stuck in this cycle of chasing, convinced that she needed to find the right person.
I am exhausted just hearing that. It's exhausting to live in that constant state of searching.
It is. And that energy of desperation was actually repelling the very thing that Anna desired most, which was a loving, fulfilling relationship.
So how does she break free from that cycle? Because I think a lot of people find themselves in those cycles and they don't know how to break free.
For Anna, it started with a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on finding a partner, she decided to focus on herself.
It's like that classic saying, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. But this book takes it a step further and suggests that self-love isn't just about feeling good about ourselves, it's about recognizing our own worthiness to receive the things we desire.
Exactly. And for Anna, that's when everything changed. By shifting her focus from lack to abundance, from searching to attracting, she began to radiate a whole new energy.
And that's when love found her.
You got it. It wasn't that she stopped looking for love altogether, it's that her energy shifted.
Interesting.
She was no longer chasing after it. She was attracting it simply by being her most authentic, radiant self.
That's such a powerful lesson. It's not about forcing things to happen, but rather about aligning with our desires and trusting that the universe, or whatever you want to call that, higher power,
Yes.
is working behind the scenes.
Orchestrating those perfect meetings.
And that brings us to another point in the book that we're going to get into next time. You will be uplifted at every turn.
Oh, I love this one.
Right.
Because we're talking about shifting from a mindset of chasing to attracting. And it's a journey, and it's not always easy. But this principle reminds us that even when we face challenges, when things don't go our way, there's a bigger plan unfolding.
Okay, before we get into all that, because trust me, I have so many questions.
Yes.
How do we reframe these challenges? How can we truly believe we're being uplifted at every turn? I think a lot of us, it's easy to say that when things are going well, but when you're in the thick of it, it feels like the universe is playing a cruel joke on you.
Right.
So how do we reconcile those two things? We'll dive into all of that in our next part of this deep dive.
So this whole idea of being uplifted at every turn, I think it's easy to agree with when things are going our way.
Right.
But what about those times when we hit a wall? When it feels like, really, universe, this is what you got for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how do we square this with those moments where it feels like life is playing a not so funny joke on us?
Well, it's not that we ignore those challenges.
Right.
It's more about shifting our perspective on them.
Yeah.
What if, instead of seeing them as roadblocks, we see them as detours?
Okay.
Maybe not the most direct route,
I see where you're going with this.
but still leading us towards our ultimate destination.
So instead of getting stuck in that victim mode, it's about asking, okay, what's the lesson here? What can I learn from this experience to help me grow?
Precisely. It's like that saying, every cloud has a silver lining. We have to actively look for that silver lining, that opportunity for growth in every situation, even the ones that feel like a punch in the gut.
You know, I remember one time I got passed over with this promotion. I was devastated, like end of the world kind of thing.
Oh, I feel that.
And then a few months later, I got laid off from that same job. And looking back, that missed promotion was a blessing in disguise.
Exactly. Because who knows what would happen had you gotten that promotion.
Right.
This audiobook encourages us to trust that even when we can't see the full picture, the universe might be orchestrating things in our favor,
Okay.
even if they seem negative or even hurtful at the time.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering to that journey, knowing that even those detours can lead to amazing destinations.
That really resonates with me, that even when things are tough, there's a bigger plan unfolding. And this idea of trusting in that bigger plan actually connects to another principle in the audiobook. Where do your desires come from?
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about getting what we want.
Right.
It's about understanding that deeper why behind those desires.
Because sometimes we're chasing things that we think we should want.
Oh, 100%.
It's not what our soul actually desires.
Yes. It's like that difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? We get caught up in what we think we should want. The fancy job, the picture-perfect relationship, the Instagram-worthy life.
Oh, got it.
But we don't stop and ask ourselves, what truly lights my fire? What makes my heart sing?
And sometimes, and I love how the audiobook makes this point, those seemingly shallow desires, like, wanting a bigger house, a fancier car,
Yeah.
they might actually point toward deeper needs.
Interesting.
A need for security, stability, recognition, belonging. We're trying to satisfy a deeper longing with those external things.
Right. It's like we're trying to fill a void with stuff when what we really crave is that deeper connection, that sense of purpose.
Exactly. And the audiobook is an example with this guy named David.
Great.
He'd always dreamed of being a doctor, following in his parents' footsteps.
A lot of pressure there.
I know, right? So he works incredibly hard, gets into a great school, but deep down, he's miserable.
Wow. It takes a lot of courage to admit that what you thought you wanted isn't actually aligned with who you are at your core.
It does. And for David, it took a pretty big wake-up call. He failed his first board exam.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and most people would see that as this huge setback. But for David,
It was a blessing in disguise.
exactly. It forced him to really look at his life and ask himself those hard questions. Like, if I could do anything, regardless of what anyone else thought, what would I pursue?
Okay, I need to know, what did he end up choosing?
Music.
Wow.
He'd always loved to play the guitar, but he'd push that part of himself aside.
To pursue the responsible path.
Exactly.
So did he trade in his stethoscope for a microphone?
He did. He took this leap of faith, enrolled in a music program, and completely transformed his life.
I love that. What a powerful reminder that sometimes we have to let go of what we think we should want to make space for what truly lights us up.
And that process of letting go, of surrendering to our true desires, can often bring up those pesky things we've all experienced at some point. Negative blocks.
Ooh, yeah, those limiting beliefs.
Exactly. And this audiobook really emphasizes the importance of identifying those negative patterns and consciously choosing to release them.
Because we've all got them, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like those negative beliefs are like these weeds in the garden of our minds.
I like that analogy.
And if we're not diligent about pulling them out, they'll choke the beautiful flowers of our desires.
It's so true. For me, I know fear of failure has always been a big one.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you how many opportunities I've missed out on because I was too afraid to put myself out there to take a risk.
And that's where trust comes in. This audiobook talks a lot about trusting in a power greater than ourselves.
Okay.
Whether that's the universe, divine intelligence, our intuition, or even just the natural flow of life.
So it's about surrendering that control, accepting that we don't have all the answers, and trusting that something bigger is guiding us.
Yes, it's about letting go of the need to micromanage every little detail and allowing ourselves to be guided, to be supported.
And honestly, that is incredibly liberating when you can actually truly surrender to that.
It is. It's like taking a deep breath and saying, okay, universe, I'm on board. Let's do this. And speaking of liberation, this audiobook offers a really practical tool for shifting our energy, for cultivating that sense of trust, for dismantling those negative blocks we were just talking about. Are you ready for this?
Give it to me. Does this audiobook have the magic solution for banishing self-doubt and fear?
Well, it's not magic, but it's pretty powerful. Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yes, because when we make a conscious effort to appreciate the good in our lives, even the small things,
Right.
it raises our vibration, makes us more magnetic to the things we want to attract.
So it's like they say, what you focus on expands, right? You're constantly dwelling on what you lack, you're just going to attract more lack.
Exactly.
But if you can focus on gratitude for what you already have, it opens us up to receive even more abundance.
Yes. And you know what I love about gratitude? It doesn't require us to change our external circumstances. We can practice gratitude for things as simple as a warm cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, a heartfelt conversation.
It's about shifting our focus to the good, even when things are tough.
And you know, this makes me think about the next principle in the book. And I think it's the perfect segue. Be happy because your wish is on its way. This idea, I think, for many of us feels so counterintuitive.
It does. It goes against everything we've been taught.
Right. We're conditioned to think, work hard, hustle, and then maybe you will find happiness when you achieve your goals. But this audiobook is flipping that script.
It's saying, find happiness now,
Yes. Embrace joy in the present moment,
not as a reward,
but as the fuel.
as a powerful force for manifesting our desires.
Exactly.
It's like we're always waiting for that external thing to make us happy.
Right, like I'll be happy when.
Exactly. When I get that promotion, when I find my soulmate, when I buy that dream house, then I'll finally be happy. But this audiobook is like, nope, you've got it all backwards.
It's not about postponing happiness. It's about recognizing that happiness itself.
Yes.
It's a magnetic force.
So it's not just about visualizing what we want, it's about embodying that feeling, that vibration of happiness, even if our current reality doesn't quite match up yet.
Exactly. The audiobook uses this analogy. It's like a radio transmitter and receiver.
Okay.
If you want to listen to a specific frequency, you have to tune your radio to that station, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with our energy. If we want to attract happiness, abundance, whatever it
We've
is,
got to tune in.
we have to align our energy with that frequency. And it's not about denying the challenges or pretending everything is perfect.
Right.
It's about choosing, even in those tough moments, to focus on the good, to focus on the things that we're grateful for.
And that leads us to the final and I think the most empowering message of this audiobook. Embracing our role as divine creators.
This is where it all comes together. This whole book is really a crash course in recognizing and stepping into our inherent power to shape our reality.
It's not just wishing or hoping for things to change. It's like this. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, and those choices. They are shaping our experiences every single moment.
The audiobook uses this great story about Sophia, this artist.
Oh, yes.
She had this lifelong dream of having her work displayed in a prestigious museum.
It's like that dream that feels so big, so impossible that we almost convince ourselves not even to try.
Exactly. And for Sophia, the more she focused on that outcome, the more frustrated she became.
So she was so focused on when will it happen that she wasn't enjoying the process.
And it wasn't until she shifted her focus from chasing that dream to simply creating for the joy of it,
Yeah.
that things started to change.
So she took the focus off of the end goal and put it back on the process.
And that's when everything shifted. Her work took on this new life. It had a vibrancy and authenticity it didn't have before.
Because she was fully present.
Exactly. And you know what? People started to notice. Opportunities started to appear.
It's like the universe is like, okay, she's got it, let's support her.
Exactly.
And that dream, I'm guessing, wasn't so far-fetched anymore.
Not at all. It's like When we align with that creative power, when we trust in the process, the universe conspires to support us in ways we could never imagine.
This whole conversation has been so insightful. It's really challenging us to rethink how we approach, well, everything, our goals, finding fulfillment, creating a life that truly lights us up.
It's about recognizing that we're not just passive recipients in this journey of life. We are powerful creators, capable of manifesting amazing things when we align with those desires, when we trust in the process and we take action.
And you know what? I think that's a perfect note to leave our listeners on today. That reminder that you are powerful beyond measure, and you are capable of creating a reality that is more fulfilling, joyful, abundant than you could ever imagine.
So true.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Don't Chase, Attract. Until next time, keep those vibes high and those desires flowing.